So for the facets, we'll do the same thing, quarter inch. So we'll make sure it's kind of a little tricky to do this because we got all the sides there. Now for this bit, I use my plastic or my jet clamp again here and just clamp that down nice and firm right to the bench there. I turned it out a little bit there so you can see better what we're doing. Now we're a quarter inch down. Keep our tool here. We're going to be come quarter inch out too. We can measure that right here. All right, this is where you're going to want a very sharp chisel, very sharp. So I'm going to use a 3/4 inch chisel, and I'm going to start knocking these corners down. Look at that. Isn't that nice? That is a sharp chisel. You know what I did? I sharpened this chisel. I didn't do a video on it, as I didn't know how well it'd work. Sometimes I do videos on things for the first time. Sometimes I do them beforehand to see, I don't want to waste anyone's time, to see if indeed that particular thing will work. And what I did is I sharpened this chisel on the Russian knife sharpener. And you want to know what it told me, or taught me? When I had exact angles like that, as that tool gives you, it really highlighted how out of square the chisel had become by my hand sharpening. And that's not that it can't be done, but it's something that takes many years to perfect, and I am not perfect at it yet by any means. Okay, so and that last little bit, so I'm just going to look how sharp that chisel is. I'm going to pare that by hand and just come right down to that line. Isn't that nice? That is a sharp chisel. That is a sharp chisel. Okay, so that's that. So what I did is I just, oops, open this up here. I did the flat sides first. I don't know why. I don't know that there's a reason. I think the reason why I did flat sides because I didn't know what I was going to do with the corners. So I just did the flat sides, but it worked out pretty good. So don't forget your lines here. Do that there. We're coming back a quarter inch, if I didn't say already. Oh, working with chisels is such a wonderful thing. I just walk that right on that line and start shallow. We don't want to. Look at that. It's it brings me great pleasure doing this. I like this work with these sharp tools. Wonderful. You can do this. You don't need hardly very few tools. I mean, granted, I'm using some new chisels here, but I could just as easily use vintage chisels. You can find them at all over the place. Put together a nice set. Actually, I prefer the older ones. It's just that I haven't put together a complete set yet. I haven't found a 3/4 inch. I like the Stanley, the 750s, and that's what this is a copy of. They're the reproductions. They're not as good. I have both, and they're not as good as far as quality of steel and heft. But they're still really good. I really like them. Really like them. One thing I really have trouble with is reproducing things. Like when I make something, I'll make like a one-of-a-kind something, and let's say I want to make it again or something like a match set. I really struggle with that because I've been so conditioned in my life working in construction where time was money. And everything needed to be done so quickly. You needed to work so quick. And my dad, one thing he really taught us, both of us, was how to work fast. I mean, he did the work of 2 guys, maybe 3. And so I learned that. And so to work fast, when time is money, when you have a construction company, you gotta do things differently. You have to. Sometimes there's not time to stop and measure. You go off of an instinct. And that, maybe there's more to it. Maybe it's personality that it kind of embraces that. I know when I used to shoot archery a lot. I used to hunt archery as well as rifle. And I used to do a lot of competition shooting, where we would shoot like 3D targets, and we would travel around and do all these different things. And all of the guys I shot with, they shot a sighting system on their compound bows. They called it pins. And it was a kind of a sophisticated sight system that would help you judge distance. And I never did embrace it. I never wanted to do it. I always shot instinctive, meaning, Robin Hood style, where you just you guess. You kind of eyeball the riser down to the end of the arrow shaft and you guess. And that always appealed to me more. I did not want to shoot pins. I didn't want to be encumbered by that. I wanted it to be that way. So, like now when I'm trying to reproduce this handle, just like the first one, I didn't really take any measurements, and I just came out and I did it like in 45 minutes, and I liked it. And so now I'm kind of having to reverse engineer everything and to make it the same. But that's just standard. Okay, so here's we're going to do the corners now. Same thing there. I've got my lines. Knock that down. This is nice wood. There. Oh, isn't that pretty? That is nice. See why it's so important to have those little lines, those corner lines? It's not going to be perfect. I mean, when you look at it, it's not even. I don't care about that. I don't want perfect. I want imperfect. I want there to be no question that when someone picks it up and uses it, that it was handmade. And that's okay. There's a beauty to that as well. I think more so. I don't want to use that as an excuse for do shoddy work. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that. Like, oh, I missed a mark, or it's not quite even. I say, well, I'm an artist. I can't be bothered with all that. But the truth of the matter is I don't have the skill. But it's okay, because the skill comes. You learn by doing. And I think that's what's so frustrating about sometimes in the comment sections, and why I can't stand forums, is you have a guy that's uploading a video and sharing his experience and making it clear that this is, hey, this is the first time I've done this. I'm learning here, and you want to share it, and we learn together. And then you have an elitist, and always it is the elitist that doesn't have any videos, doesn't have any content, self-professed expert, talking about how you did everything wrong, and not offering any solutions, but just criticism. And I always confront. Okay, if that's if you're right, why don't you upload the video and show us, so we're not we don't have to stay in our errors, that we can bring ourselves up to your exalted level. But you know what the response is? Crickets. Crickets. Do not like forums. Do not like forums. Last one. Ooh, that's nice. Isn't that nice? That looks great. It's looking pretty good, isn't it? Those knots are nice. Gives it some character. Here's the end. You can see they're not perfect, but they're done by hand. They're the best I can do. So now we'll drill our hole in here. So we'll set that handle all the way down till it touches the screw in the bottom of the vise, and then we can put our little wedges in there. Don't want this moving on us. We put a lot of force on this with our bit, our drilling. Get that nice and secure. Now the stock that we used for the poker was 1/2 inch, and then of course we drew it out round and a bit of a taper so that the handle will fit tight. So what I found, and I didn't do this right the first time, and I learned, but I'm going to do it this time, is we want a 1/2 inch hole, That's providing that we did our hole correctly. But what I found was it wouldn't go in all the way. It was too tight, and I was worried it was going to split. Oh, I would love to be able to put a hand-forged collar, a steel collar around there. To be honest with you, my just blacksmithing abilities are not there yet, but someday. Now, because it takes so much force and it's an awkward position for me, I stand up on this bucket here, and then I can get my body weight down on it. Because you want to, and then I'm going to go in, maybe I'm going to go in about an inch or so with the 9/16. Not too much. We don't want to go the whole way. So that looks good. We got that 9/16. We're in there, maybe a little less than an inch, right at. So now I'm going to switch over to the 1/2 inch bit. This is the size of the stock, and that way now we're going to get a good tight fit. This is my granddad's brace, the tool that's holding the drill bit. It's such a wonderful thing to be able to work with the tools that he worked with. For all I know, it might have belonged to his father. So there's only one thing left to do, and that's to put the hole in there for the rawhide handle so it can hang on the forged hook. So I'm just using, what is this, 1/8 inch? Little guy, no, 1/4? Smallest of my bits, I don't know, 1/4. So 1 inch down, I'm just gonna eyeball that, the center. You could measure it, but I'm usually reasonably close on that. You wanna see what a nice bit, how it cuts? Look at that. Look how clean. You see that right there? It's got these bits, these vintage Irwin bits, have a cutter that cuts the wood fibers on both sides. It scars it, and so you don't get tear out like you do on so many of the newer bits. They're wonderful bits. So when I did the first handle, I thought that I had judged how far I went through, and I drilled a 1/4. Oh, I almost went all the way through there. I drilled a 1/4 inch into my table or my workbench. I'm going to have to plug it now, but. Oh, look at that, I caught it just in time. There's just the augers. I thought I was halfway through and I was all the way through. I forget how efficient those little drill bits are. But that works out good. So I know exactly where I'm at, so I can start from this side. I learned my lessons slow, man. That's why one of my favorite songs is I got that from the Reverend Horton Heat. Even I knew that, like, oh, be careful, don't drill another hole in your bench, and I would have just about did it again. Oh, that looks great. That looks nice. Now for the garnish here, we'll put our rawhide hanging strap in there. So there is the completed handle. Now the astute observer will notice that there's 2 different types of wood here. This I started with is flat sawn 8/4 hickory. And this, I looked everywhere. This wood was sent, a couple pieces of 5/4 was sent to me from a subscriber. And when unpackaging some, I don't know what happened to if there was a note or if there wasn't a note. I don't remember who it was that gave it to me. I wanted to credit you for sending it. It's a different species. I don't know what it is. It's a hardwood. Maybe I don't know, it's an alder or what it is, but I thought it was kind of cool to use 2 different types. And why not? But if you sent this to me, let me know. I'd like to send a thank you, and we'll give you an honorable mention. But I think it's kind of fun there. Oh, let's put some boiled linseed oil on it and see what that does to see how that brings it out. Life just is not complete without the boiled linseed oil. That's the icing on the cake, isn't it? That's what really. Let's see how that looks on there. Well, that's pretty. That's pretty wood, isn't it? Don't neglect the ends. That's nice. That's a beautiful piece of wood. I'll enjoy looking at that for the rest of my days. I think I mentioned this. A blacksmith, the guy who taught the blacksmith class, so the guy who he apprenticed under had a saying that said, if you make something out of steel, if you make it ugly, it's going to be ugly a long time. I thought that was pretty funny. So you don't want this to be ugly. I'm going to be sitting on my couch looking at this to my rest of my life, and it's got to be something that gives me pleasure. So now taking the extra time to do it nice, and when I look at that, I'll know that one's hickory and one is not hickory. But I'll remember the kind subscriber who sent me this wood, and we'll always appreciate that. So there you have it. There's the second handle to the shovel, and I guess we have another fire tool to forge here soon. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.